This meeting is hosted by IFSP Regional Councils. Welcome, council members. Everyone, please rename yourself in Zoom to include your region. Example, Southwest, Eastern, Northern. If you don't know your region, that's okay. Rachel will provide instruction and will show a map of your regional area. This will be important for the breakout assignments after the main presentation. Okay. This is a public meeting. While exchanging communications, please do not share personal, private, or protected information. We encourage you not to do so. Those in attendance, please be advised, IFSP funding began October 16th and is open until November 14th. However, this is not a meeting about IFSP funding. If you like more details about funding, Rachel will place the link in the chat and you can review at your leisure. Otherwise, let's move on to tonight's presentation. Wanted to extend a hello and greeting to regional council members, state council members, representatives of DBHDS, representatives of VCU Center for Family Involvement, representatives for ARC, and all of our guests. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Rhonda Gaines. I'm the IFSP Community Coordination Supervisor. This meeting is planned for approximately 2 hours and 15 minutes. Other IFSP team members joining us are Rachel Vamenta, IFSP Program and Communications Coordinator, Heather Hines, who is the IFSP Program Manager. Tonight, our guests, we will have an educational presentation by Sara D. Thompson. She's with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. She's a community resource consultant for supported decision-making. Our subject tonight is supported decision-making in Virginia. So Sara will give us information and tools to use to help with that process. Sara also extended an invitation to a guest panelist and self-advocate, who is Maurice Stewart, and he likes to be known as Reese. He is accompanied by his mother, Bettie Bell. Reese is currently utilizing the supported decision-making tool, and he will discuss his experience later on in the meeting. We also have Kendra Wormly. She is an RSA project coordinator from PEATC, that is Parent Educational Advocacy Training Center, and she will tell us more about moving from youth to young adulthood and why supported decision, why supported decision-making plays a crucial part of that transition. Please hold questions until after the presentation or place your questions in chat and someone will answer during Q&A or towards the end of the meeting. Any questions not addressed during this meeting will be answered in the recording post-meeting. Now we'll have Heather Hines, and she'll tell us a little bit more about what is IFSP.
Thanks, Rhonda. It's great to see everyone here tonight. My name is Heather Hines, as Rhonda said, and I'm the program manager for the Individual and Family Support Program. Our programs primarily focus on supports and resources for individuals and families, regardless of their age, with a developmental disability, who live in the Commonwealth of Virginia and who are on the wait list for the developmental disability waiver. So while the funding program is, which Rhonda mentioned earlier, that's happening now, that's expected to always target only people on the waiver waiting list. Our other programs are available to people with developmental disabilities and their families, regardless of their waiver status. So as we said, we have a funding program that provides financial resources with our annual program. Individuals who are on the DD waiver wait list and are living in their own home or their family's home can apply for funding for items and services that support them to be able to continue to live in their homes and their communities. This program is typically once per year in the fall. Another part of IFSP is our direct supports to individuals and families, to include family mentoring opportunities through our partnership with Family Mentoring, VCU's Partnership for People with Disabilities, Center for Family Involvement, and peer mentoring opportunities through a partnership with the ARC of Virginia. Our partnership with VCU also includes LEAP, which stands for Leadership for Empowerment and Abuse Prevention Training. Regardless of your waitlist or waiver status, you can access these programs. IFSP partners with Virginia Navigator to develop and maintain the My Life, My Community website. You can find information on services and resources at this website, regardless of the waiver status. And there's also a toll-free number. It's our call center. That phone number, if you ever want to call and speak to a live person for help with navigating, is 844-603-9248. And they're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. And the people on the other end of the phone are incredibly helpful at navigating the website and answering all kinds of questions for you. So then we have our IFSP Community Coordination Program, and that is a partnership made up of our regional councils, which is 5 coalitions of individuals who are on the DD waiver waiting list, or family members, caregivers, or providers, all working at a grassroots level to increase supports in their communities, as well as our IFSP State Council, a coalition of individuals who are on the DD waiver waiting list, or other people with developmental disabilities, family members, caregivers. Again, all those individuals in the State Council serve as an advisory board to DBHDS. And then finally, another essential part of IFSP is sharing information about resources with individuals and their families and the community at large. Just a couple things I'll bring to your attention, resources that might be helpful for you or your loved one is our First Steps document that's accessible on the My Life, My Community website. And it includes an overview of the development service system in Virginia. And this guide was developed to help individuals and families understand resources, support, and services that the Commonwealth of Virginia offers to people with developmental disabilities. So we encourage you to go to the My Life, My Community and check out that resource. It's very helpful. We also send a monthly digest to our email list. Our digest includes information about resources, training opportunities, coming events that may be of interest to individuals and their families. And if you would like to receive these monthly emails, as well as information about our other programs, Rachel's going to put a link in the chat, and that you can click on that or copy, get that to add yourself to the wait list. So that's just a little bit about what we do in the Individual and Family Support Program, and we're very appreciative of our partners, many of whom are here today, and our council members. Thank you all for everything that you do, and I'll leave it back to you, Rhonda.
Okay, thanks so much. So we want to take this moment to extend council recognition for some of our members who will be departing on December 31st, 2023. They have served their time, and I'm sure maybe looking forward to retirement or possibly returning. We'll see, in a different capacity. So our IFSP team, along with Deanna Parker and Heather Norton, would like to recognize our council members, their time and participation on council. Their insights and dedications have been tremendous and are greatly appreciated. We wish you all the best. And so leaving us, if you don't mind coming on camera, or you can put something in chat, whatever you would like, so we know who you are. Dana Coing from Western Region, she served on State Council. Sean Campbell, Central Region, served on State Council. Jan Reicher, I hope I said that correctly, Central Region, he served on Regional. Tiffany Cobbs served on Eastern, served for Eastern Region on State Council, and Stephanie Thull served on Northern Region on State Council. So we thank you so much for all your time and your dedication. Okay, now on to our main presentation. Sara D. Thompson, supported decision-making in Virginia is our topic. Sara has over 15 years of experience working with children and adults in the areas of mental health and developmental disabilities prior to joining DBHDS as a supported decision-making community resource consultant for the state of Virginia. Sara worked in the Developmental Services Division of Community Services Board as a support coordinator, intake coordinator, and quality specialist. Sara's passion for helping others was fostered at a young age through her volunteer work in her community, as well as in other states and countries. Sara is a Charting the Life Course ambassador and person-centered thinking trainer. Her goal is to help everyone live the life they want through the use of person-centered practices. Sara hopes for everyone to understand that we all need support, not just people with disabilities, and she is excited to be able to use her passion for person-centered practices and advocacy at the state level in order to identify and resolve barriers to more inclusive living for people with developmental disabilities. In her spare time, Sara enjoys spending time relaxing with her husband and cat, running and brunching with friends, and working in her garden. Sara will begin her presentation. Please hold questions until after the presentations or put your questions in chat and we will answer them upon return. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I appreciate that nice introduction. I'm just setting my own little timer now to remind myself how much time I have. And I want to say thank you for having me here tonight. It's also neat to see so many council members that actually were on the original planning committee for this in 2020. What year was that? 2022. That helped create a lot of the documents that we will see tonight. So, so I find that so exciting to see you guys again. So there we go. So as Rhonda said, I am the Supported Decision-Making Community Resource Consultant at the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. And my role really is to share about supported decision-making agreements and alternatives to more restrictive types of support like guardianships with anyone and everyone across the state. So I hope that you take the information tonight and hopefully you will learn either something new or think of something differently. And if you are comfortable doing so, pass it along. If not, feel free to pass my name along to anybody that you think needs to hear it, or if you want to pass their information to me to reach out to, I am more than happy to do that. So our goals for tonight are to kind of cover what is supported decision-making, what does the supported decision-making in agreement in Virginia look like, what are the risks and benefits. We'll go through the documents that we've created. I want to also look at the decision-making continuum. So what are the different types of decision-making options available to people in Virginia? And then I will transition it off to Kendra to share some information about PEATC. And then finally, when you guys come back from your bake room, you all will have truly the stars of tonight with Reese and Betty. So I'd just like to open up with a quote that our lives are sum total of the choices we have made. And the choices that we make are things that we make starting even at infancy. So we make choices even as young babies, we are able to indicate choice. So this is not a topic that is solely related to a point in time or an age, and it is not a topic that is relative to specific diagnoses. This is a topic about something that we all use and is quite important to all of us. So again, supported decision-making is this idea of using people that you trust to get the information you need to make a decision or a choice. I always say that in addition to trusted people, nowadays we have the benefit of technology. So it's not just trusted people that we can use, but there's other trusted forms of information and resources like Google and I don't know, Siri, Alexa, all kinds of forms of technology, and a wealth of written information and books out there that you can use to support you when you're making decisions. Supported decision making is something that is proven to help people maximize their self-determination, because with supported decision making, even though you're getting help with understanding what your options are, in the end, you are making the ultimate decision regarding what you want and don't want in your life, and you're keeping all of your legal rights. So this is something that's seen as a least restrictive alternative to things like guardianships and conservatorships. And we always talk about how these least restrictive alternatives should really be tried first before things like guardianships or other types of substitute decision-making options, because things like supported decision-making allow people to keep their legal rights. The other thing I'd like to point out is that supported decision-making, like I already said, is something that we all use. So again, it's not tied to age, it's not tied to a disability or a diagnosis. This is something that anyone and everyone can utilize. In Virginia, we have 4 principles related to supported decision-making. So the first one is this idea of presumed capacity. So every person should be presumed capable of making his or her own decisions. And not only is this a principle for supported decision-making in Virginia, it's actually a law. We have a law that says that once somebody turns 18, they are presumed to be able to make these decisions on their own. So things like consenting to services, signing documents, making choices. By law, at 18, you can do those things unless a judge going through a court process has said otherwise. And this is regardless of any type of diagnosis or disability as well. So all of us at 18 have this presumed capacity. The second piece is that we acknowledge that sometimes people do need some supports. So when someone requires assistance in making decisions, the least restrictive option that meets the person's needs should be pursued, and every effort should be made to maximize the individual's autonomy and independence. This third one speaks to the fact that we understand that also sometimes people need even a little bit more support. So if somebody does need something like more of a substitute decision maker, where someone is making choices for somebody else, in those cases, these substitute decision makers should always take into consideration an individual's expressed personal preferences to the extent appropriate. And this principle is very similar to principle number 1 in the sense that not only is it a principle, it's also a law in Virginia when you look at things like legal guardianships. And then finally, number 4, we have the idea of dignity of risk. So we know that making decisions is a lifelong skill. This is something that takes practice and time and experiences so that you can learn and grow. And everyone should have this opportunity to learn and grow from making choices and, experiencing whether it's a positive outcome or maybe not the best outcome from their decisions. Making choices and having what we like to say are more maybe not so positive outcomes is this idea of dignity of risk. And making choices that have more poor or negative outcomes should not be a motivation for restricting an individual's rights through things like guardianship and other forms of substitute decision making. Supported decision making increases a person's sense of self-determination. Self-determination is when you're able to take control of your life. And the Virginia Department of Education states that self-determination is made up of these 3 things: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Autonomy is the ability to control what happens to you in any given situation. And this really requires opportunities to practice making choices and working through those potential consequences. Competence is when you believe that you have the skills needed to complete a goal. And then relatedness is this feeling of a sense of belonging. This can either be with your family, your school, or other groups, but really having the opportunity to connect with people that you've got similarities with. Other positive attributes of supported decision-making are improved health outcomes. And this includes not only mental health, but also physical health. Additionally, we have improved outcomes when it comes to employment. So typically people who utilize things like supported decision-making end up finding themselves in more competitive employment that increases, also has a higher increase in pay. And ultimately, using supported decision-making and learning the skill of decision-making helps people make bigger decisions as they get older and truly be able to be strong advocates for themselves. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is, this is great, I kind of get supported decision-making, but what does it actually mean in practice? So I like to kind of give some ground rules for people who are going to support someone. So the first thing is, if you are supporting someone with a decision, you need to know how that person learns and takes in information, because we all learn differently. The next piece is that you need to understand how someone communicates. It is not the individual's job to communicate in a way that you understand. It is our job to understand how people communicate. And if people need assistive devices or other things to be able to communicate their preferences, we need to ensure that they have access to those kinds of things. The next thing is, if you are supporting someone with a decision and it is a topic you know nothing about, please be honest with them about that and help them maybe connect with somebody or a resource that does have the information needed. We don't want you feeling like you are giving support to somebody on a topic that is not even relevant to anything that you've had experience or knowledge in. Because ultimately, as a supporter, your job is to ensure that the individual has all of the information they need in order to make a truly informed decision. So let's look at the supported decision-making agreement now. Supported decision-making agreements are the formal process of documenting who somebody wants to help them and what areas of life they want help. And then what does that help look like? How are your supporters going to help you? Supported decision-making agreements are made up of at least two people. We have the decision maker. That is the person who is creating the agreement and ultimately making the decisions. And then you need at least one supporter, one person who is going to help you with thinking through your options so that you can make an informed decision. We have a third option that's optional, which is the facilitator, and their role is to really oversee the supporters and kind of monitor to make sure your supporters are doing what they say they're going to do in the agreement. So right now in Virginia, supported decision-making agreements can only be done by individuals who are at least 18 years old and who have an intellectual or developmental disability and keep the legal right to make decisions. So that means a judge can't say that they have what's called legal incompetence or legal incapacity, and that they usually end up with a legal guardian or a conservator in those situations, or both. So to become a decision maker, you have to, again, be 18 years or older, have a diagnosis of an intellectual or developmental disability, and have the ability to make your decisions legally on your own. With that, I do like to give the caveat that there are people that have multiple diagnoses. You might have an intellectual developmental disability and maybe a mental health diagnosis, and that's okay. You can still utilize supported decision-making agreements because you still have an intellectual or developmental disability, and that meets the criteria. Your supporters and your facilitator can be anyone that you want them to be. We have no rules or restrictions on who can serve as a supporter or a facilitator, and you can have as many supporters as you want. The supporters and facilitators are not paid to do this role. So kind of like Heather was saying early on this evening, that a lot of the services that IFSP offers are not tied to waiver, either through the waiver itself or being on the waiver waiting list. The supported decision-making agreement is also not tied at all to the waiver. So your supporters and your facilitator do not get paid. They are truly just acting as natural supports. Now, on the flip side, you can have paid supporters, people that are paid to support you in one area of life, be a supporter on your supported decision-making agreement. So if somebody is paid to support you in your home with maybe helping you cook or clean or get ready for the day, they could be a supporter on your supported decision-making agreement. The one thing we ask in those situations, though, is that people that are paid to support you in one part of your life remove themselves or say that they cannot be a supporter on your agreement for any types of decisions that could be seen as a conflict of interest because of what they are paid to do. So we talked about the benefits a little bit earlier, but again, people keep their rights and make all final decisions, which increases this idea of independence and self-determination. It also gives people this chance to kind of develop skills. Again, we all learn things. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and we all have this ability to learn and develop skills. So maybe there's something right now that I can't do at all, or I can do with support. And over time and with that support, maybe it's something that then I can one day do on my own. Or if it's not something I could do at all, maybe one day I can do it, but with support. So it gives us that opportunity to develop our skills. It also is an alternative or a way to kind of avoid the longer and expensive legal process of going through things like legal guardianships. I believe it was a lawyer who told me that courts are always open and lawyers will always be willing to take your money. So, the court system is always available. If you do feel like a higher level of support is needed, that is always an option available. But it is much more difficult to reverse things like legal guardianships than it is to go from a supported decision-making agreement to a higher level of support like a guardianship once you've tried that less restrictive option. The other benefit of a supported decision-making agreement is that it can be changed, updated, and canceled at any time and free of charge. There is no cost for creating a supported decision-making agreement. So what are the risks? We will definitely be open to the fact that nothing is free of risks or danger in life. It's also important to note that even people that have legal guardians are still susceptible to risky situations. However, studies have shown that people utilizing supported decision-making or options that increase their self-determination are less likely to be found in situations of abuse and exploitation. So that is a positive thing to think about when you are thinking about supported decision-making. One of the things that we did as a work group last year when we were working through what does supported decision-making and what do the agreements look like in Virginia was we created a protocol for how do we address abuse and exploitation. This goes along with kind of what the roles of the supporter and the facilitator are and give some guidance if they observe anything or hear anything or have concerns, how should they respond appropriately with contacting APS and even emergency services if needed. So what aren't supported decision-making agreements? They are not a backdoor to guardianship. So this is not a way for parents to say, oh, I still want to make decisions for my loved one, but I don't want to go through the court process. That's not the case at all. If you have a supported decision-making agreement, you are the decision maker, you have the legal right to make your final decisions, to sign your forms, to consent to services. They are also not a way for supporters to make decisions for somebody else. Supporters are truly there to do that, provide support, ensuring that you have all the information needed so that you can then make your decision. They should not be providing undue influence or pushing you into making a choice that they want, not the choice that you want. They aren't a way for people to take away your rights as you still keep all of your legal rights through this process. And they don't take the place of other types of support, such as things like advanced medical directives or power of attorneys. All of those documents do their own individual things. So we do want people to understand that they can have different types of support at the same time. So in Virginia, we have created a Virginia supported decision-making agreement template. And we created 3 discovery tools that help with kind of processing through and thinking about the things that you need to think about in order to create your agreement. So the first discovery tool that we have is the When Do I Want Support tool. This is a 10-page document that kind of lets you help check or mark off very common types of either decisions or things that you have to do as an adult in different life areas. And what you would do is it lists a decision or a task, and it says, is this something that I can either do on my own? Is this something I can do but with help? Or is this something that I can't do at all, either because it's a skill I don't have yet, or it's something I don't want to do? Because we all have that choice to kind of say, hey, I would be able to do it, I just don't really want to right now, and that's okay. The great thing about this tool is it goes line by line in the same order with the life areas and the different tasks or decisions as the Virginia Supported Decision-Making Agreement template. So if you fill this tool out, it is super easy to fill out the template that we created. The next discovery tool is the what kind of support do I want? So we all like to get helped in different ways. And for that matter, we all don't like to be helped in certain ways. And so this tool, it's 3 pages. It's another one where you check. It goes over some very common types of ways that people like to get help. The first 2 pages are the check pages, and then the 3rd page has blank boxes that let you write in more information. Are there other ways that you like to be helped? And are there other ways that you don't like to be helped, or things that aren't helpful for you? I know I've had some parents tell me before, you know, I'm always helping my loved one, and they always say I'm not helping. And then we start to talk about, well, how are you helping them? Oh, well, I'm doing what I find helpful. Well, how you like to be helped might not be how your loved one likes to be helped. And in that case, yeah, they probably feel like you're not helping them. So this is a super helpful tool to have for anybody in your life. You know, I know teachers have used it, providers have used it, employers, you know, use it with your coworkers for that matter to understand how to best support each other. It's a great tool that anyone can use. And then finally, we have the relationship map. This is a way for you to visually map out who's in your life, and then you can utilize it to help you figure out who might be your supporter. So with the relationship map, your name goes in the middle. It's your map. And we have these 4 categories, but you could certainly change them to whatever fits your needs. But you've got family, people who support me at home and other places, your friends, and the people who support me at work or school. Now, what you do is you put the names of these people in these various circles, and the people that you put closest to your circle are the people that you feel most connected to, the people that you are closest to, that you trust, that you would look to for help, or you already look to for help. And when we talk about that closeness, it doesn't necessarily mean physical closeness. I know I talked with somebody who has a supporter in another state across the country. I've talked to people that have supporters in England because they made that connection online. So, I mean, again, technology has really expanded our view of support, which is amazing. So utilize that. The other thing is things like family, for instance. Family is how you define family. It doesn't have to be blood, a blood relation, or who's in your house. It's totally up to you how you define these categories and who goes on this sheet. Now, to go along with this, we have created some additional guidance documents. If you fill out all 3 of the tools, we have a form that kind of helps you take the information from there, take the information from your relationship map too, and say, okay, if these are the things I need help with, and these are the ways I like to be helped, who on my relationship map has these skills or has the knowledge needed to help me with these things? And those might be the people that you ask to be your supporters. Along with that document then is some guidance on how to ask somebody to be a supporter, as well as a template you can use if you want to write a letter or call somebody and talk to them. It's a template that you can kind of fill out with your information to then be able to ask somebody to be a supporter. So let's look briefly at the agreement itself. So the Virginia Agreement, Supported Decision-Making Agreement template has 8 life areas. It covers health and personal care, friends and partners, money, where I live and community living, school and education, working, my rights and safety, meeting and talking with my supporters, and then I'll tell you we have a 9th life area that's other. So within each life area, there are those kind of predetermined or prescribed decisions or types of tasks that are common to many adults. But within each life area, we then have space for you to free write in other ways that you like to be supported or want to be supported, other types of things that you want in that life area. Again, things you don't want your supporters to do in that life area. And then the 9th is really that other is if there's something that you want help with that we haven't listed anywhere else and you don't think it fits in any of the life areas, you can put it in other. To go along with the agreement template, we have a couple different pages that are attached to it. So there is a page, or on the front cover, there's a way for you to indicate the other types of supports you have, and I'll show you that in a second. We also have the agreements page where the decision maker and all of the supporters sign. I will say there's only spots for 3 supporters. So if you have more than that, you can just make copies of that page as many times as you need to. There is a cancellation of the agreement. So, hey, I no longer want my agreement. With that, it is a simple sign and date by the decision maker. Then we also have an agreement form for the facilitator because we're asking them to do some additional things from what the supporters do. So they have their own page to sign. We have the option to get this form notarized. Now, I do want to say that in Virginia, the supported decision-making agreement is not a legally binding document, meaning that your supporters can't be sued for not providing the support they say they're going to, and they can't get in legal trouble for the decisions that you make as the decision maker. So the notary signing off or sealing the document does not make it any more legally binding. A notary is just saying, yes, I witnessed everybody agreeing to and signing this document. We also have 2 pages that you can utilize if you want to make changes to the agreement, any updates, maybe adding things that you want support in, or adding supporters, or even for that matter, saying, hey, I developed this skill, I no longer need support with it. And then we have a cancellations page, because we all know that there might be times that relationships don't work out or they're strained, and you might say, I don't want this person as a supporter anymore. Or for that matter, a supporter might say, this isn't working for me, I don't want to be a supporter anymore. And in that case, you would just fill out the cancellation section saying who's not going to be a supporter anymore and what the date is. So this is the front of the agreement. Your name as the decision maker goes in there. The best way to be contacted by your supporters. So, you know, not only how to contact you, but even maybe when to contact you. Maybe there's certain times of day that you want to be contacted or don't want to be contacted. The initial effective date of the agreement. So this is the first date that you and at least one of your supporters signs the agreement. If you make updates, which you can do, that will be done on those change and cancellation pages. So this is just the date that you first signed the agreement. And then at the bottom, this is where you can indicate if you've got other types of support. So things like a power of attorney, or maybe somebody that oversees your finances. You can indicate if you have it, if you're attaching copies of those documents to your agreement and kind of creating one big packet, or, letting people know I have this, but I'm not including it with this. If you need it, ask me for it. So some of the other documents that we've created and are on the website, and I've got a link to that next, are we have step-by-step instructions on how to fill out the Virginia Supported Decision-Making Agreement template. We also have a medical release of information form, which is written in plain language. And based on ADA, you should be able to utilize it under the accommodations piece. So you can take it to your doctor if for some reason they don't have a release form that is clear enough to be filled out. We also have an educational release of information form, which is also in plain language. And that says, yes, I'm still the decision maker. I want to make my educational decisions. However, I still want these people involved. I want them invited to my IEP meetings, or I want them to get notifications from the school about my records and that kind of stuff. There's a checkbox where you can indicate who you want to get information or be involved, and what information they can get or what they can do when it comes to your school piece. It's not giving your rights to make decisions about school back to a loved one, back to your parents or anybody. You're still keeping that right. You're just saying, this is who I want involved. We also created a tracking tool. So who has a copy of your supported decision-making agreement? This document lists common people that might get it. You can fill out their names and also indicate what date you gave it to them. So that way, if I made an update or a change to my agreement and I did it after the date listed on my tracking tool, I need to make sure I get them an updated copy of my agreement. Or again, I don't want an agreement anymore. I've said, I've filled out, I've signed and dated. I need to go back to these people and let them know I no longer have a supported decision-making agreement. Some of the other things we created are 2 frequently asked question forms. One is written in plain language. And then the identifying possible supporters and asking someone to support. I talked about those documents along with the relationship map. So this is a QR code and instructions on how to get to our page about supported decision-making. So all of the documents related to the supported decision-making agreement are available on the website in English and Spanish as Word documents and fillable PDFs. However, if you need them in another language, please let me know and we can work on getting that for you. Other things that are on this web page are copies of trainings that I've done. So recordings, copies of the PowerPoints, and then question and answer documents that have come out of those trainings. There's also links to a bunch of other resources from across the state and nationally that might be helpful if you are thinking about decision-making options or for more information about supported decision-making. So how is a supported decision-making agreement created? It's not anyone's one job. So it's really just by having conversations with people that you trust and really thinking through this discovery process. You don't have to utilize the tools, that's okay. They're just really there to provide guidance if you want to. When you are creating your agreement, though, you want to make sure that anybody that you want to be a supporter or a facilitator is aware and that they agree to do what you are asking them to do. And certainly if you need support, please feel free to reach out to me. I know I just said that it's nobody's one job. It is actually my job to help people with creating their agreements. So, so the one person's job it is mine. So if you want assistance with even just thinking through the process, looking at any of the tools, whatever it may be, feel free to email or call me and we can set up a time to do that. So how do you know if a supported decision-making agreement or just the idea of supported decision-making is right for you? So I like to just first ask is, can you take in information? Can you understand things that people tell you or that you read or learn? And can you communicate in some manner? I'm a firm believer that everybody can communicate. I think that there's a very, very, very small percentage of people that likely can't communicate a choice or a decision in some manner. But otherwise, the majority of people are able to communicate in some way. We just need to learn what that is. The next piece is, can you make decisions about your life either on your own or with the help of people that you trust? Then, when we're looking at the agreement piece, are you at least 18 years old? Do you have a diagnosis of an intellectual or developmental disability? And can you legally make decisions for yourself? If you've answered yes to these kinds of things, then yes, supported decision-making and supported decision-making agreements could work for you. Do I have to use these forms that we've talked about tonight, or even the Virginia Supported Decision-Making Agreement template? And the answer is no, you don't. You can create your own agreement if you want to, but we do recommend making sure that your agreement has at least this information. So who do you want as your supporters? When do you want help? How are you going to get help? So what does that help look like? And then to make sure that you as the decision maker and all of the supporters sign and date the agreement. And do I have to have a supported decision-making agreement? Absolutely not. We all use supported decision-making already, so you can go on ahead and continue to use that as you have been. The benefit of the agreement itself, though, is for people that are in your life that support you to know who to reach out to and when. This is just a quick breakdown of the different decision-making options. I've got some handouts on the website that talk about decision-making options. So for time's sake, I'm not going to go into this too much. But I do want people to understand that supported decision-making is not the same as substitute decision-making. So in supported decision-making, you keep all of your legal rights. You make all of the final decisions. With substitute decision-making, this typically involves a loss of some rights, if not all of your legal rights, and somebody else is making decisions on behalf of you. This is kind of that continuum. So what we consider to be least restrictive to most restrictive as far as the different types of support options in Virginia. And when should we begin talking about decision-making options? So as I said at the beginning, this is a lifelong skill. We are always working and developing the ability to make choices and decisions. So start now. It's not something to put off. On the website, there is a decision-making in the early years. So, you know, if you've got a little kiddo and you want to understand how do we develop the skill of making choices and work on making decisions and choices at a young age, we've got some information to help you with that, just as we have information to help you with this idea of supported decision-making and making decisions when you're either in transition or adulthood. So I'm going to hand it off now to Kendra Wormly. Kendra is the RSA project coordinator with the Parent Educational Advocacy Training Center, or PEATC. She's a proud graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University, where she's received a degree from the School of Education and Therapeutic Recreation in 2002. For over 18 years, she's worked with families, professionals, and organizations to provide support to youth and young adults with disabilities to increase their independence and improve opportunities to actively participate in their community. So Kendra, I'm taking it to you.
Thank you so much, Sara, and good evening to everybody. And thank you so much for allowing me an opportunity to be able to share with you guys about PEATC and who we are and what we do. As Sara says, my name is Kendra Wormly, and I have been with PEATC going on 3 years right now. So I'm very excited about the work that we're doing at PEATC. So let me just tell you a little bit of PEATC if you've never heard of us before. As Sara said, Next slide, please. We stand for Parent Educational Advocacy Training Center, and we serve the whole state of Virginia. And our goal is that we just want to empower families. In the state of Virginia, we want to work with families, work with our young people. We serve families from birth to age 26 of any child that has a disability. And our focus is to be able to empower you to be able to navigate the special education system in the state of Virginia. And then after that graduation or leaving high school, guiding you into what services and supports there are out there for you, for your child or a young adult with a disability, and for family members. We do have targeted areas which we like to focus on. Our Latino outreach is one of our focus areas where we're working with our Spanish-speaking families in the state. Our military outreach, as you guys know, Virginia is very huge when it comes to the military lifestyle. We have a lot of bases, and our families that are being or being stationed and family members are staying here. Our military families, they just hold a special place in our hearts, and we try to provide them with those supports as they're coming into the state or maybe leaving out of the state or dealing with a loved one who is deployed. We also have family engagement, which we understand and we know having families involved is very important. And we're going to talk about that little entity as we talk a little bit more about supported decision making. Bully awareness, and October is Bully Awareness Month. So we know that a lot of times our kids who have disabilities are unfortunately the target of bullying in our schools. And we want to be able to provide our families with that information and our young people with different tools and techniques and how to deal with a bullying situation. And we're actually having a bullying workshop next week for youth and young adults. Ages 13 to 18. And we're going to be talking about what is bullying and how to help and support someone if they're experiencing bullying, or if you as the child is experiencing bullying as well. Another of our outreach areas is early childhood, because we know early diagnosis is very key, and we want to be able to provide families with that support as they're dealing with a new diagnosis, or maybe as they're getting diagnosis as the child is getting older. And the last area is that transition to adulthood, which is my specialty. I like to call my baby in my wheelhouse that I like to stay in. And that's what my focus is in working with families and talking about what's going to happen once our child starts going to school. What's going to be those next stages of adulthood and how we can prepare for that. And what we like to say, preparing for that end in mind. Next slide. So how do we do this? We are always just a phone call or email away for family members, for any young adult or anyone who has a disability. If they need to have questions about, their child's IEP, or they said this acronym, what does this mean? I have questions about guardianship. What supports are out there? We are just a phone call and an email away to help out our families and to provide them with that support. So we will review IEPs with families. We do not go to IEP meetings with families, but we will give you the tools so that way that if you're sitting at that table, you'll be able to navigate that meeting or understand what's going on, or provide you with the tools of the best steps that's going to be good for your child or your family member. We also do trainings and workshops as well, as we are giving that information out. And we have a number of workshops that we do throughout the year, a number of trainings. We work with VDOE. We also work with DARS as well, and providing those trainings. And we have a number of fact sheets and resources that we provide to our families, because knowledge is power, and we try our best to be able to provide that knowledge to our families so they can feel more empowered as they're sitting in meetings and we're preparing for that journey of life. So next slide. So when it comes to supported decision making, and Sara talked very well and gave a lot of great information when it comes to supported decision making. And what we like to do at PEATC is that within our trainings, we like to talk about that supported decision making. And actually right now we do have our transition university that is open. And this is a 5-week self-paced course. And currently, actually on Monday, we're going to be opening up our session 3, in which we're going to be talking about supported decision making along with Able Now accounts and some other information, and preparing families for that next step in life. And for us, we feel like it's very important that we always talk about self-advocacy. And we always say self-advocacy is never too late to start self-advocacy, but it's never too early to start self-advocacy. And I'm saying that to say it all correlates and ties in with that supported decision making. Because when we give our kids that voice and we let them know that their voice is important, and we bring them into those IEP meetings and we have them sit at that IEP table, we're letting them know, hey, your voice matters. What you want for your future matters, and we're here to support you. And that's all what supported decision making is all about, right? When we have somebody that's there to support us in our dreams and our goals and what we want to do once we finish high school. So it can even start in elementary. That profile, that student profile, that one pager, those I'm determined worksheets that they have, those things are very important so that student can use their voice however way, if they can communicate verbally or if they only use ASL, however they communicate, they're able to use their voice to tell people, this is what's important to me. This is what I need help in. This is what I have. This is my strength. These are my weaknesses. So we like to ensure that we are building that around our kiddos. I like to say kiddos, so I do apologize if I do offend anybody. But we want to make sure that we're empowering our kids, because when we empower them at a young age, when they become an adult, they feel empowered. They know what their voice, they know their voice matters, and they know that those self-advocacy skills is going to take them far. And being able to say, this is what I want, this is where I want to live, this is the job that I want, and it goes further along the line of that person as they become an adult. Next slide. So we do have a number of resources, as I said before. I just think about all the resources I've made in the last 3 years, which I'm very super excited about. And we're always looking for just ways to get information out. So we do have I like to call our supported decision-making resources that we do have on our website. And if you go to our website at www.peatc.org/services/transition-to-adulthood, you will find these resources that we have. Thank you so much, Rachel. And we talk about is guardianship my only option? And we know that there's other options out there. How does supported decision making look like when it comes to vocational rehabilitation or transition services? Because like I said, we want to empower our kids. And we also focus on that person-centered planning, because as we're talking about our future, who is the center of that meeting? That student. And we want our students to know that their voices matter. And we let parents know, hey, it's okay. We have to be able to build these skills up for our young people so that they will be able to say the things that they need in their lives. Next slide. Those are not the only supported decision-making resources that we have, but we do have a number of other resources. We talk about those legal terms to know when we're making those decisions. So a lot of families, we were just having a brief conversation about a family member was talking about guardianship with me the other day and saying, oh, I need to know more about what limited guardianship is, because I wasn't able to get that information from who I was talking to. So we have that information that we're able to share. We talk about power of attorney, and we always emphasize that everybody's life is going to be different. So you have to figure out what's going to work best for that family, because one family may do something over here, but it may not work for another family. So let's talk about all those resources and all those options that are out there for that young person. And then we also talk about those transfer of rights, because we're working with special education, and when that student turns 18, they become their own adult. And we try to prepare families for that. What is those transfer of rights? What do we mean by that? And we also do a training that's one of the trainings that I do, more popular trainings that I do, turning 18, how to prepare for that. What does life look like when your child becomes an adult in the state of Virginia? And then the last slide, because I can keep going on and on for hours, but I know that we do have a time limit. But if you guys ever need any resources or have questions, do not hesitate to call us. Do not hesitate to email us. You can email us at partners@peatc.org. But if you want to email me personally, you can email me at kwormley, WORMLEY, @peatc.org. You can email me anytime. If I don't know the answer to your question, I will find that answer for you. But we're just here to help you out. We're just here to support you guys the best way possible as your child is thinking about life after high school and as you're planning for those next steps in life and thinking about that end in mind. Thank you.
Okay. So welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we have a very special guest and panelist, and I will have Sara Thompson do the introductions of Mr. Reese Bellstewart.
Okay. So we have the honor and privilege of having two wonderful people here with us this evening. So we have Reese Bellstewart and his mom, Bettie Bell. They live in Newport News. That's where his mom is right now. However, Reese is on the other side of the state in Fishersville, joining us past his bedtime, actually. So I thank you for being here and giving us your time this evening. Reese is a graduate of Heritage High School and is currently attending Wilson Workforce Rehabilitation Center in their food service program. Reese enjoys cooking, anime, and drawing. He has been featured in national publications for his innovative work as an intern with Crop Foundation, which we will learn more about. It is a nonprofit focusing on hospitality, food sustainability, and restaurant innovation. Reese is a strong self-advocate and completed a supported decision-making agreement soon after turning 18. Bettie Bell is Reese's mother. She and Reese have collaborated to increase his independence throughout his life. She is proud of his skills and asking for what he wants and needs, and his willingness to creatively consider all options when planning for his future. Bettie is a behavior and technology consultant who supports people with disabilities to live their best lives with the supports they need and the autonomy they deserve. So thank you so much for both being here. Bettie is going to actually ask Reese the questions, and then I might chime in with a few questions for Bettie as we go, but primarily it is going to be Bettie and Reese, and I'm going to let them take it away.
Good evening, everyone, and good evening, Reese.
Hi.
How long has it been since we saw each other face to face?
2 weeks.
Okay, because you've been at Wilson Workforce Center planning for your future. You enjoy it there?
Yeah, it's a pretty fun place.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm proud of you for the work you're doing there, and I'm proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone and meeting with us here. So we're here to talk today about supported decision-making. And when did you first hear about supported decision-making?
Before I turned 18.
Okay.
I was 17.
Okay. How did I explain supported decision-making to you?
You said it's supposed to help support people with disabilities and to teach them what's from right to wrong and what we can do to fix the problem and turn it into something good.
Okay, so when we talked about it, we talked to it in the context of when you have challenges, ways you can make sure that you keep living a good life. When I first said it to you, what did you think about supported decision-making?
I don't even remember.
Can I remind you?
Yeah.
You told me that you needed a guardian and you insisted that we meet with a lawyer.
Yeah,
And what did the lawyer say?
that I was too smart for it.
The lawyer said, let's try supported decision-making first. I think that's a really good option for you. And when we talked about supported decision-making, versus guardianship, you said, if I remember right, and I might be wrong, that you were a little worried about making a big mistake that impacted your future and your ability to get employment in a kitchen and live in the community. Is that what you kind of remember?
Yeah.
So when does supported decision-making start to feel like a good choice to you?
When I had an episode and I was so consistent wanting to do something that wasn't the best option, but I couldn't think because I was too upset. And then I realized when I calmed down after I went to a hotel that I needed support.
Okay, so you're talking about the time that you were really overwhelmed, living at home, and you said, I think I'm ready to move out.
Yeah.
And you said, I want to move out today. And I said, finding an apartment takes a little while. And you said, I'm going to move out today. Where was your choice for where you wanted to live?
A homeless shelter.
Looking back, does that feel like the safest choice?
It just feels dumb.
We all have those choices. A lot of us do when we're 18. So
Yeah.
You had your supported decision-making agreement together. So who did you reach out to?
Mr. Chris.
And what was his idea?
Idea to get a hotel and to have my own space and, think about this thing thoroughly and all the way.
Okay, so when you were really overwhelmed and overwhelmed with living at home, would you have really listened to just me in that moment?
No.
You needed someone else, right? Mr. Chris was the one who could help you. And so Mr. Chris is part of your supported decision-making agreement. He's on your team to help you figure out big life decisions. Who else is in your supported decision-making agreement?
You, Fabio, Leah.
Okay, so me and your stepdad, your
Yeah.
sister. What about Andrew Burns? Who's Andrew Burns?
He's a counselor I met at camp, and then we became good friends.
And
Then
what
we
does
got-
he do now?
He's a doctor.
So what decisions could he help support you with?
Calming me down.
Mhm. What about medical stuff?
Yeah, he could help me with medical stuff, medical decisions.
So if there's something that comes up that might feel embarrassing or uncomfortable, you might call Andrew.
Yeah.
And if there's something that comes up with calming down, you might call Andrew or you might call Chris.
Yeah.
Does it feel good to know that there's a team of people who have agreed to look out for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that there's a team of people because no one can be everything to everyone all the time.
Yeah.
So as long as you're willing to reach out and accept help from folks have agreed to help you.
Yeah.
Can you share with the people listening, who is Miss A?
Miss A is from Newport News Public Schools, and she's been teaching me since I was in PEAP.
So since you're in preschool, she's been working with our family as your personal care attendant. Is
Yeah.
she part of your supported decision-making plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have picked the most important people to invite to help you make important decisions.
Miss A helps me calm down, and we cook together because that's both something we like to do.
Okay. Okay. So what tools did you use on the website to make the supported decision-making agreement? Do you remember those forms that we filled
Yeah.
out?
And then we changed them to make them fit better.
Yeah, we looked at the forms. We scribbled through some stuff.
Yeah,
We added some pages.
I guess you could say we made it the Bellstewart way.
We did. We made it the Bellstewart way because whose life is it about?
Me
Okay,
and my safety.
so safety is really important to you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you feel like you can be safe with your supported decision-making agreement?
yeah,
I saw you thinking.
yeah,
You still gonna reach out to people
yeah.
and get some help? As we talk about safety, talk to me about what happened in the hospital when you were at Woodrow Wilson and you broke your foot.
Tore a ligament.
You tore the
foot.
ligament and you broke that little osseous off, remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said, I want to call my mom, what did they say?
They said you can't because it's a no cell phone zone. I said it's my decision. I'm 18, and my mom is my decision supportive making agreement.
And
And
so
she's
when
like-
you said, I have the supported decision-making agreement, what did they do?
They let me call you.
I remember you told me, they said, oh, and they went and they looked in your charts
Yeah,
and they saw that you had filed it.
yeah,
And then they let you call me.
yeah.
Did I change anything about what was happening?
No,
No. You handled that all on your own,
yeah,
but it probably felt a little bit better knowing that someone was helping you for
yeah,
your first time being in the hospital without family around.
yeah.
Where do you keep your supported decision-making agreement?
I keep it in my room so I
Okay,
can go over it.
okay. Who have you given it to so far?
A lot of people, my crop family, Kip,
Okay.
Leslie, Beatrice. Kip, Leslie, Beatrice, Brent, Amari, Josh. There's a lot of people.
So you have it on file
Yeah,
for your internship because
Yeah.
some people at your internship are part of your supported decision-making team for your job and your career, right?
yeah.
Who else have you given it to? What medical people? Do you remember?
Rebecca, Andrew,
Okay.
Danny, and Nina.
Okay, so you're talking about your team. Gosh, when you say their names, it makes me realize how many people care about you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty cool that they're willing to help you. Do you remember the day we went to your doctor's office and gave them a copy?
yeah. I just don't
And
know the exact date.
that's true. I don't know the exact date either. There's so many dates running through our brains. And then when you started work with DARS,
Yeah,
you gave it to your DARS counselor.
yeah,
She was a little surprised, wasn't she?
yeah.
Do you remember what she said?
No.
She said, huh, I've never seen one of these before. It makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. And you gave it to the folks at Wilson Workforce Center
yeah.
and they respected it. Okay. How do you feel like you've ever done things that I might not agree with, but your supporters helped me?
Yes.
Okay.
We just talked about it, the homeless shelter thing.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. if it was my choice, I might have said, why don't you sleep on it and calm down? But your
Except I wanted to
supporters,
get out of the house. I wanted to get out of the house right away.
your supporters said, let's figure out a plan. And they helped you come up with a really good plan.
And now we go to a hotel once a month.
And then that plan helped us come up with a new routine as a family.
Yeah,
So you and I make sure we get away at least one overnight a month
yeah,
because we have a busy house.
yeah.
So how do you feel now about supported decision-making now that you're using it?
I feel better. I feel like I can sleep on it. It used to be that I couldn't sleep. And even though I'm taking the medicine called trazodone, I feel like I'm sleeping a lot better than I was when I was off it.
I'm guessing that being a young autistic adult makes you feel worried about some things.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of stuff I see online, tops and stuff, it's just brutal.
So supported decision-making helps you feel less overwhelmed, it sounds like?
Yeah, and more calm. Just like we have this word we say when we get pulled over. I have autism, please call my mom.
Okay, so we practice things and we make decisions, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what would you say to someone who, like you, thought, I might need guardianship? What would you say about trying supported decision-making?
That supporting decision-making is a lot different because you can still pick things, but it's only for certain amount of things like medical and choices when you aren't able to make those choices.
Okay. So you still have the medical power of attorney paperwork too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sara, did you have any questions for Reese and I?
I do. I definitely do. So Reese, you really answered a lot of my questions. Thank you so much for that.
No problem.
One of the things that I get asked about a lot, though, is challenges. So have there been any challenges since you guys have been using supported decision making, or things that haven't gone well?
I would say that every once in a while, I'd say that the challenge is trying to get used to it.
How so?
Like there'd be one thing on the challenge, like I broken myself and I was also sick at the same time, and I couldn't make the right decision. And it was hard because not only I had nasal congestion and I felt sick, but I also hurt myself really bad and I was in pain and didn't feel good.
So sometimes when you feel really sick, it's hard to even think about who your supporters are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Betty, have you had challenges as a mom and a supporter?
I think one challenge is that people aren't as familiar with the tool. Maurice's brother has very extensive support needs, and we've chosen guardianship as his support team for the best strategy to keep him safe. And so when I support them, I have guardianship paperwork and supported decision-making paperwork. I would have thought guardianship would be really simple and everyone would understand. No, I still have to explain to receptionists and intake people and other folks what guardianship is. So I find that as the parent of young men with developmental disabilities, I'm explaining my role in their life with guardianship paperwork, with supported decision-making, and with less formal support. So some of those concerns, they still happen, but they're not as significantly different as I would have thought. I think it really does help that I say the state of Virginia has recognized and developed this document that we use. It really helps that DBHDS has put their name behind it, that people like you, Sara, doing the hard research and the hard work, because it's very readily recognized. Once people look it over, they can tell it's a legitimate, comprehensive document.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we're still working on that education piece. So we appreciate you all continuing to be advocates and providing that education piece too while you're utilizing it. And then I think my last question is, Reese, you said something about the Bellstewart way.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, the Bellstewarts have kind of utilized supported decision-making across your whole family. Can you guys tell me a little bit about that?
I don't really know how to answer that.
Is that a mom question?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, Reese, I'll get started and you fill in the pieces that I miss, okay? Okay, so I was, as Sara, as you and I were talking before this meeting, I was a participant in partners and policy making through the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities in the mid 2000s, like way back when Reese was still in early intervention receiving services. And that's a program to support people with disabilities and parents to become advocates and to support independence and person-centered planning and self-direction. And that really resonated with me. So Maurice has attended all his IEP meetings from the age of 2 on. Maurice has made medical decisions to the extent that he could throughout his life. And Reese, what is our slogan? Nothing about me without me. He laughs because I say it all the time, right?
Yeah.
And I was that obnoxious mom that someone would call and ask me a question and I'd say, hold on, let me check with Reese. And I'd interrupt his video game or I'd interrupt his TV show to make sure I wasn't making decisions for him. So this process felt like a really natural way to give Reese the support that he deserves. Reese has worked really hard through his life to become more independent. He used to have really extensive support needs for communication, and he's learned how to communicate with people and strangers and advocate for himself. And I'm really proud that this is kind of the culminating step of his childhood, that he has picked all these people to help him make decisions.
Yeah, it really is it's a lifelong skill that we continue to develop. And I'm thrilled that the Bellstewart family has really made it part of their culture. And it's something that you guys have done throughout everyone's life. And, you know, Reese, you are amazing proof of how wonderful your family is and what can happen when we have support that we all need. So I greatly appreciate both of you guys sharing information this evening and, you know, sharing how you guys utilize supported decision-making as a family, and Reese, how you use it amongst your other supporters, because you've got a lot of supporters, which is incredible. And I think maybe we're turning it over now to some questions, if you're okay hanging out for a few more minutes to see if there's questions. Okay.
Okay, so from our breakout session, I believe there were some questions generated. Is there a particular region that wanted to start with a question for Sara, for Reese, or for Miss Betty?
Or Kendra.
Or Kendra, I'm sorry.
We can start in Nova.
And Kendra. Okay, Jen.
We had
Reese,
two
okay.
questions from Nova. So the first one is, if you're already under guardianship, how do you go about changing to supported decision-making, and how hard is that?
Okay, great question. So if you want to change to supported decision making when you have a legal guardianship, you have to go through the court the same way you did to get guardianship. So you go to your circuit court, you have to petition them, you have to provide proof or evidence of some sort that your loved one has the ability now to make decisions. The great thing is that supported decision making can be that proof. The Disability Law Center of Virginia provides guidance on that. They are working on a written up document, but if you contact the Disability Law Center of Virginia, and I have the link to their site on our webpage, they will provide the steps necessary with how to do that.
Okay, so our second question was, do you need to bring the supported decision-making paperwork with you if you are being treated at a hospital or doctor's office like you need to for power of attorney or guardianship?
It's helpful to have, or to at least if it's, I think what Reese did was he gave it to his doctor and it got scanned into the system. So at your doctor's office, or if there's a hospital that you would primarily go to, having it scanned into the system would be helpful.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Those were our two questions from Nova.
Thank you for starting us off, Jen.
Eastern can go now.
Okay.
Tamara's going to ask our questions.
Good afternoon. Our question was, what is the difference between the microboard program of 15 years ago and the supported decision-making program of today?
So microboards are typically a paid service. So you pay to create a microboard. Supported decision-making agreements are, no one is paid to provide that support. I will be honest, my understanding with the microboards, because I'm not a microboard specialist, is that they still involve to some extent people making decisions for someone else. There can be a substitute decision-making piece to that, where with supported decision-making, it truly is the individual making the ultimate decision.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Our second question was, what is an appropriate age to consider or start the process of supported decision-making?
I mean, I say any age because it's that lifelong skill. Betty, can I throw that to you and Reese? Like, what age do you think that it was helpful to begin thinking about it, thinking about the agreement piece?
17.
Was that enough time for you, Reese, to understand what it meant and to kind of build your supports?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my birthday is pretty far away. It's July 31st, so it was a pretty long time.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Well,
Thank you.
And I think also it could be part of, it can be part of the entire lifespan of someone, of course, but also it can be a really valuable part of that transition piece that starts in educational settings when folks turn 14. I think that might be a really natural way to slowly introduce pieces of it. What do you think, Reese?
I think
when you're finishing middle school?
Yeah, because I think that like it took me a while even before, because I was fed a lot of information and I was still processing it and also not knowing a little bit about it.
It's a lot of information to think about. It is not a quick thing. It's not something you guys sat down and did all in one day, was it?
No.
And I would just like to add, I'm sorry. I didn't
Kendra,
mean-
go ahead, Kendra.
I was like, and I just wanted to add into that piece, everything that you guys just said, I totally agree with Reese said, what Betty said, and Sara said. And also thinking about when you're talking about those transfer of rights, when it comes to that IEP piece and that transition planning, that conversation has to come up a year before that student turns 18. So if you have been talking about it, do those transition years where even implementing a lot of those self-advocacy, person-centered planning throughout the lifetime of that child or that young adult. When you hit that transfer of rights, you can start kind of narrowing things down, because we're looking at when we turn 18, we are considered as an adult, and how we can start implementing some of those supports for that young adult.
It's a great point, Kendra. Thank you.
Okay. What region would like to go next?
Western can go.
Okay.
And this is Dana, and I'm
Hi, Dana.
Hi, my camera is being crazy, and it's so I'm gonna leave it off because I don't even know what it's showing. So I apologize, but it's so funny and ironic that our two questions are kind of related to what you've already talked about and some of the aha moments that you've had during this presentation. But one of them was, and it kind of goes back to what Ms. Bell said, we were wondering, how can we get this information like out to parents and maybe like partnering with DARS, because it seems like with them, when they gave it to their DARS person, they didn't know. They're like, oh, okay. And it also goes back to like the IEP time. When is a good time for it to be introduced? Because I'm a SPED teacher, so I'm already planning to introduce this to my students that I have. But a lot of SPED teachers don't know this because they're not a part of what me as a parent of someone who has a disability, and just working through all of the waivers and everything else on the personal side, not on the academic side. But just how can we get this partnership with those agencies to make sure that they are presenting this information to parents who not necessarily get it from their SPED teacher in their school division?
So we are constantly reaching out to other organizations and to the school systems, to Department of Education and DARS to create partnerships and collaborate. I know that DARS specifically, their PERT program is working on a decision-making options training where they talk about supported decision-making for the people that go through, I think it might be the virtual PERT part first, and then hopefully we can get that expanded to the in-person PERT program. And we've been working with the Virginia Department of Education since the beginning of this. So we're always trying to get it out there. And Reese, you have your hand raised, sir.
Did y'all try like social media? A lot of people are on social media.
You know what, sir? That is a great idea. I need to work on that. I am not a tech savvy person.
Our councils can definitely share that information. We have Facebook platforms for each region. And
young adults go on Facebook. I mean, young adults go on Instagram and adults go on Facebook. So those are the two. Those are the two good ones that could reach out a lot quicker.
Thank you. Thank you. I will work on exploring that.
And our second question, you kind of answered with the first one. We were looking at, is there like a continuum to make sure that all of those agencies get that same information? And you kind of answered that along with our first question about how you're constantly sending it out to all those agencies to kind of help fill the gap. So
yeah, we definitely try to keep those lines of communication going. Also, the other thing is like, why reinvent the wheel? PEATC's done amazing work already when it comes to supported decision-making with a lot of their documents. So it's like, well, why would we create a document when PEATC's already done a great job with doing it? So if we can create those partnerships and collaborate and bring all of the resources that are really already there together, that's helpful. You know, making sure we're delivering a consistent message and that we are aware of what is out there and what's not. Where do we have gaps? What's missing? And how can we fill those gaps and meet those needs that have been unmet?
Okay. So we're going to, Dr. Belinda Peterson has her hand up. We're going to get a question from Central. And whom else? Is it Southwest?
Yes.
Has not presented. Okay, so Dr. Peterson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Belinda Peterson, and I just want to kind of chime in really quickly. First, I want to say how proud I am of Reese and Betty. I know them very well, and they invited me to join in tonight. I also want to speak on the format of being a parent with a child with a disability and a medical provider in pediatrics. And one of the areas I would say that you guys can collaborate with sharing this information is primary care pediatricians' offices. As a parent with a child with a disability, there is not a place that I can go and get a lot of this information. Betty is a huge resource for me. And speaking to other patients that I see that come to see me for just regular medical appointments, and they have a special needs child, will communicate, and I will share knowledge that I know with them, and they will share things with me that I then pass on to other people. And that's really sad that this is how we get information. So I would definitely say, try to collaborate with pediatricians' offices. I work at CHKD. I don't know offhand who the contact person is for disabilities that can get this information and disseminate it to all the general pediatric offices. When patients come in for physicals or families come in and they have a special needs child, we have to do checkups yearly, 2 months, 4 months, 1 year, 3 year, 4 year. This information can be shared with them because they need these resources.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. That is a great idea, and we will definitely explore that. I think actually CHKD came up on my radar for something else. So we were already trying to find a contact for them.
Yeah.
But thank you. Yeah, I will definitely work on that piece. So thank you.
Let's see, we're coming close to our close time. Let's take a question from Central Region.
Sure. So one of our questions was already answered, and that's kind of centered on the school transitional aspect. So that sounds like that has already been touched upon. But our other question was maybe just some clarification on, in using the supported decision-making tool, what, in terms of like decision-making rights, what does that impact versus not impact? Like, I think we touched on like medical decision-making. We also talked on, had questions about like voting and those kind of rights. So if you could just maybe just clarify, I guess, those finer points on that.
Sure. So when you utilize supported decision-making, you keep all of your legal rights. The supported decision-making agreement, you can pick any kind of decision that you want support with. So there might be medical questions that I need help with, but I might not need questions about my voting rights. Or maybe I have questions about my voting rights, but I don't need help when it comes to deciding where I live or what I want to do with my job. When we think about our legal rights, it's important to know what those are. So it's not just voting. But when, so your legal rights are things like, voting, whether or not you drive or can drive, whether or not you can work, where you live, owning a firearm. There are a lot of legal rights that we don't necessarily think of. Being in a relationship, like a significant other. Those are all rights that can be taken away or removed if you enter into guardianship, whether it's limited or a full legal guardianship.
And I'd just like to hop in from that personal parental perspective. I have 3 sons who have the waiver and 3 other children who are adults who don't have as extensive support needs. But it's that relationship piece that's the most important. And even though I have one son who I am his legal guardian because of his support and medical needs, I can't strong arm him into anything. Like, yeah, a judge might uphold things, but it would hurt my relationship with him to strong arm him. So the principles of supported decision-making and shared power and getting information and talking it through, they're so valuable for neurotypical folks, for people with developmental disabilities, and for folks who might need guardianship. So it definitely is a continuum.
Thank you. We have a few minutes for one question from Southwest.
Well, I really don't know
Southwestern
which
region.
one. Yep, I really don't know which one to ask. So one of the questions we had was, what is the role of a support coordinator or case management coordinator after discussing it with individuals and families?
Excellent question. So, if the support coordinator feels comfortable, if they'd had the discussion and somebody says, yes, I want to create one. If the support coordinator feels comfortable working on kind of the discovery process, maybe doing some of the tools, if the person wants to use any of those discovery tools, or even helping them create the agreement, they can do that. If they don't, and if there's nobody else in the individual's life that feels comfortable working through that process, then I just ask that they connect the person with me. And that's my job, to help work through that process with the person. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Central region and Southwest region, the questions that you did not have an opportunity to ask, if you could put those in chat and Sara will respond, and it will be included post-meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of wrap up this section, this particular part of the presentation, tremendous thanks to Reese for hanging out with us tonight, Miss Bell for being a great mom and supporting your son to the max. Kendra, thank you for your presentation, additional information and resources from PEATC. And Sara, awesome presentation, great information to pass on. It is one thing to hear a presentation about a document. It is another thing to see it brought to life and to see how impactful it can be to a person when you say empowerment, when you say choices. I think this was a perfect last meeting for council this year. So thank you so much. I hope I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. Okay. So we're going to move forward in wrapping up our meeting. We have some council business in that we are recruiting currently for anyone interested in serving on council and have time to commit in a voluntary capacity on state and regional councils. Please contact us at IFSP using IFSP community@dbhds.virginia.gov, and Rachel will put that email box information in chat. Also, you can connect with the RNCs if you're interested in your region. So you met them during the breakout sessions, and you can pass on your level of interest to those folks as well. Let's see, Rachel will also put in chat more information about My Life, My Community and where you can find various resources. Our next all council meeting will be January 19th, 2024 from 12 to 2:30 p.m. That is for state and regional. Just save the date. The educational presentation is to be announced. Let's see, any questions that were not addressed during this meeting will be answered in the recording post-meeting that will include PowerPoint slides as well. If you haven't signed up for our email list, Rachel will put that in the chat. You can get digest information and updates from IFSP. Next, I would like to, we have a few minutes, and I wanted to recognize all of our council members from each region, not only those who are departing, but everyone who committed and were present and active and helpful for this past year and who helped make my job a little bit easier. So I'm going to say your name. If you want to come on camera, you can wave a hand, put something in chat, but we are appreciative for every one of you that currently serve on state and regional council. So for Central Region, Sean Campbell, Jeremy Langford, Christiana Stafford, Sean Kirk, Jan Reicher, Keisha Dortch, and the RNC, Renee Sanat for Central. Did I say your name correctly, Renee?
Close enough. Soniat.
Soniat. No,
I'll
okay.
answer to pretty much anything.
No, Soniat sounds so much better. I apologize. Yes. So thank you. For Eastern, Tamiko Blackman, Tiffany Cobbs, Tamara Herbert, Summer Hoffman, Chiquita Hubbard, Jennifer Jackson, Jonathan Mader, Mary Miller, and Jesse Monroe. And for Eastern, we have Donna Robel, who is not with us tonight, and Joan Bruner. Thank you so much. For Northern, Stephanie Thole, Angela Lalo, Michelle Reed Cox, Jennifer Rockwell, and Northern would be Jennifer Reese, RNC. Thank you so much. Southwestern, Love Kingsbury, Leslie Harrop, George Rogers, Jennifer Sheets, Jo Beth Wampler, and Lisa Richard. Thank you so much for everything. And last is Western, Thea Blouch Calder, Dana Coing, Nicole Pangle, Peter Petard, and Erica Rogers, and Rebecca Stickler is the RNC for Western Region. Thank you all so much.
You
And
actually said my name wrong.
I'm sorry, Thea. Could you please pronounce it for me?
Yes, it's Bleach Calder.
Bleach Calder. I apologize. Thank you for that correction. I'm not really good with names. I apologize. And so last, we have like to give thanks to our presenters again. And we will move to the QMR and link for the satisfaction survey. Let us know what you think. Please scan the QR code or fill out the satisfaction survey or follow the link. So thank you for everyone. We are meeting free until the first of the year. I wish everyone, we still have council work to do, but wish everyone a great holiday season as we bring 2023 to a close.